Welcome back. Today what we're going to do is a French onion soup. Apparently it's a very popular soup in restaurants. From what I understand, most restaurants saying it's one of the most popular soup. And many of the people that saw the post that I did with the onion soup said they really want to learn how to make it. So I'm going to show you my own version. We'll talk about some other people, what they do, but let's go. What I did to save time, what we're going to have onions, balsamic vinaigrette, red wine. You can use white wine as well. Some people even use cherry wine. I already toasted some bread, salt, pepper, flour, and what I did in this pot, I have 4 cups of chicken broth and 4 cups of vegetable broth. I put them together. I also added some carrots and celery and a bouquet with thyme, rosemary, parsley and cilantro, just to add more flavor to the mix. So let's get started. What we're going to do, we're going to have the onion, just to demonstrate, I'm doing about 3 or 4 onions. What you see over there, it's about 8 onions that I slowly caramelized it. Let's go back to the onions. I like to cut them to an even pieces and not too large so they can cook quickly and evenly. So with this, again, not too small, but to give yourself some nice, as you can see, sizes, and that's the way it's going to be. And when I caramelize it, I start with the hot pan, which we'll turn it on in a second. And then I drizzle some olive oil. You don't want it to be very hot. You just want it to caramelize slowly. So here we go. And actually, when you want to do onions, caramelized onion, you can use it for many other things. You can use it, you know, if you want to put it on top of the hamburgers or some other things that you may cook, chicken, fish, and all different kind of things. So we're going to let it caramelize. That might take a little time. But while we do that, since I started ahead of time, we're going to start to prepare the soup with the caramelized onion. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring back the Dutch oven, put just a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to add to it the caramelized onion that I made earlier. As you can see, I have a nice golden brown tint, and you know, that gives more flavor to the dish. So you do want to caramelize it and give it some color. Yeah. At the same time, I'm showing you how to do this onion. So since it's already caramelized, I'm going to give it a second to get nice and warm. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to drizzle some flour. What it does, it gives it a little bit thickness to the sauce. So just a little bit flour, not a lot. And then toast it a little bit, as you can see. And it will give it a little bit thickness. Now, a lot of people use also butter. I don't use butter. If you want to use butter, you can do that. You know, to give more flavor. And a lot of people, instead of using chicken or vegetable broth stock, they use beef stock, which also give flavors. Okay, so at this point what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a glass of red wine to the onions, and I let the alcohol evaporate a little bit. Mix it nicely. Okay, the reason you want the alcohol to evaporate, otherwise it's very bitter. And it will give a nice color to the caramelized onions. And another thing I'm going to do, some people add brown sugar or light brown sugar or sugar to caramelize onions. I don't do that, but I do like to add a little bit good quality balsamic vinaigrette. It will give another level of flavors to the onion. So I do about 2 tablespoons. Again, mix it nicely. And you can see that the onion is starting to get a nice color to it. I just wanted to give it a little time to evaporate the alcohol from the wine that I put in. And at the same time, let's mix the onions. And at this point I will reduce the temperature a little bit so it will not get burned. You know, you have to give it time. If you want to caramelize, you have to give it time, but it should give it a nice flavor. So as you can see, the wine started to evaporate it, and it's got a nice thickness to the sauce. And at this point we're going to start to add the broth or chicken stock and the vegetable stock to the soup. And then we're going to let it cook for another maybe 30-40 minutes. Okay? And you can see it's really getting nice color and already started to look like a nice soup. And we're going to give it time. Let's get the onion here. It starts to get nice and soft. Now it will start slowly to caramelize. You know what I'm going to do with the soup to spit things out? To spit things out, I'm going to use a strainer and just get the broth into it, but it will catch up all the other stuff that I put in there. And that's pretty much, as you can see, it's the soup. I'm going to let it now simmer slowly, slowly. If we need to make it a little bit thicker, then you add a little bit more flour. But let's wait with that and see how things, you know. So I'm going to let it simmer for a while. Okay. I'm grating some Gruyere cheese. I'm going to use some grated some, and some I will have in salad pieces, and we're going to put it on top of the toast of the soup. So we'll see it in a minute what we're going to do with that. Okay, it's been cooked for about 45 minutes, and as you can see, the soup have a nice thickness to it. It's not too liquid, it's not too thick, and that's the way I want it. If you want it to be more thicker, you can cook it for a little bit longer or add a little bit more flour. Otherwise, if you want it more liquid, which I don't like, you add more liquid. You can add hot water to it as well. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start to assemble the soup. I like to do it in a big vessel. So remember, it has to be hot. So you're going to put the soup and bring it all over high. At the same time, I already put the oven on broil, which we're going to put it in the oven so it will start to melt the cheese that we're going to put on top. So we have that. And then I'm going to take the toast, French toast, put it on top, cover it nicely. Okay. And then some salad pieces of Gruyere cheese on here. And here, and some shredded one. And don't be shy, that's part of the soup. And I'm going to put it on a broil in the oven. You want to wait long enough for the cheese to melt, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay. So this is the finished product of the soup. I put it in the grill, broil, just to give it a nice color. And let's just test it to see how we like it. It's amazing. Let's just recap what we did. What we did is we first caramelized the onions, and then I put the onions in a pot, drizzle a little bit flour to it to give it some thickness, and then I added 1 cup of red wine, waited for it to evaporate a little bit, and 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinaigrette. Mix it. In a separate pot earlier, I put 4 cups of chicken stock and 4 cups of vegetable stock with a bouquet of rosemary, thyme, parsley, and celery and carrot. Would give it a little bit more flavors. I reduced it a little bit so it would be intense in flavors, and add it to the onions. Cooked the whole thing for about 45 minutes. And what I did then, I plated. I had soup. On top of it, I put some toast baguette, and on top of it, grilled cheese, and I broiled it. The nice thing about it, you can make it in advance for friends and just broil it before you serve it. Enjoy.